Have you ever been playing competitive Pokemon, having a good time, and then you run into this? If so, you have just faced off against a Gimmick team. Hi everyone, Cerulean here, and today I'll be talking about some of the most unique teams in Pokemon Champions. Today's topics will be what is a Gimmick team, what are the strengths of a Gimmick team, and how do you beat Gimmick teams. With that out of the way, let's start with what is a Gimmick team. Unlike my other videos, this one is going to be a lot harder to define as the idea is quite abstract and even the name itself is hardly anything official. In fact, if I could give this another name, I would call these content teams, because every time these show up you just know a content creator is going to feature it, if not be the very creator themselves. If I had to put a definition though, it would be that a Gimmick team is a team that's goal is to win a match through unorthodox means that require very specific types of setup and Pokemon. An orthodox way to win would be a team whose goal is to knock out Pokemon primarily through damage trades in their favor, proper positioning, and understanding their win cons against the opponent's team. A Gimmick team relies on one specific strategy to get their win virtually every single game. There could be subtle gameplay changes such as leads and other members in response to the opponent's team, but the main strategy never strays. All of these strategies also rely on a unique way of setting up that requires more than one Pokemon to facilitate their own strategy. Hi everyone, I've been looking for ways to increase my audience engagement with my videos, so we're going to play a quick game here. I'm going to bring up a team archetype, and you're going to guess if it's a Gimmick team or not. Okay? Okay. Here we go. Entrainment No Guard. Yes, that one was pretty easy. Protect the President. No. While these teams rely on boosting up, these are typically self-facilitated by the booster, while the partners are there more for protection rather than the actual setup. Furthermore, these teams typically have more than one mode, or at least one other sweeper option. Perish Trap. Yes, actually. This is like the definition of an unorthodox way to win games, and you typically need to go all or nothing when using Hard Perish Trap. This one just gets glossed over because they have an amazing PR team with Wolf Glick, and you do actually need good understanding of positioning if you want to successfully pilot this team. It's just that most people don't actually have that. But I promise you it is lame, I mean a gimmick. Hard Trick Room. No. Another potential tricky one, but at the end of the day, Trick Room is just speed control like Tailwind, and your team is compromised of multiple mons to sweep under Trick Room, rather than an all or nothing one mon to win. And you probably have more than one way to set up your Trick Room as well. Did you get them all right? If you did, great job. If you didn't, don't worry. A lot of people live as failures. Now onto what are the strengths of a Gimmick team. And to understand that, we can first look at why people would want to run a Gimmick team in the first place. Looking at the types of gimmicks, we see things like minimized stacking, and setting up to get 100% accurate OHKO moves. So obviously these people are invested in skill expression. No, I'm just kidding, man. Can you imagine? No, it's cheese. It's a lot of cheese. The true strength of these teams are the surprise factor. If you've never seen a team before, you are much less likely to be able to counter in one match. This is why these teams tend to do better on in-game ladder, which is closed team sheets. Comparatively, looking at actual tournament results, these type of Gimmick teams are practically non-existent, except maybe Hard Perish Trap, which even then only really gets a few results because of players like Wolf, which is more of a showing of the player than the team in my opinion. The other strength which is related to this is that true counterplay tends to be overly specific. For example, the standard team probably doesn't have a surefire way to get around minimized boosting without relying on some luck. These teams are also typically very easy to pilot since their strategies are one-dimensional. Get your setup and hope your opponent either doesn't have a counter for it or doesn't know how to counter it. And if they don't, great, you probably won the match. Now onto the weaknesses of Gimmick teams. From my research, the main weakness I've seen for these teams are job interviews. Gimmick team players tend to fear social interaction and being useful members of society. During job interviews, Gimmick teams tend to cower and... Oh no. I forgot to change this part of the script. Dang. Okay, editor, make sure you get this part out, alright? Now onto weaknesses in beating Gimmick teams. Gimmick teams tend to come in a large variety, and each would have their own counterplay, you imagine. But from what I discussed earlier, a large part of these teams' strengths is a surprise factor. Just knowing how these teams operate gives you a huge leg up in the match since they are typically so scripted in their win condition and setup. Compare this to a classic meta team like Zard Slop that utilizes strong matchups and good offensive and defensive synergy, it's far harder to counter a much more fluid game plan. Another point is that all Gimmick teams need some form of setup to get going, so your goal should always be to stop the setup before it snowballs. This could be something as simple as teching Taunt onto a Pokemon, which covers most strategies. Obviously it's not as simple as that, as a team could come with some form of protection, whether it be redirection or fake out. For gimmick teams that rely on heavy damage boosts, such as anchor point Tauros, you can use something as conventional as outspeeding and KOing either the Tauros or the setup enabler before they can attack. For less offensive teams, personally I like using Roar/Whirlwind, which are phasing moves that force a Pokemon out, thus resetting any boosts. What I like about this is that they have can't miss accuracy, which even goes through Protect, so there's little you can do to stop it. What's more, once you phase them out, they are very likely to be out of position to start their setup once again, so you can much more easily dismantle the team. Roar works for a variety of other things as well, which is why I'm particularly fond of it. You can phase out your own teammate under Perish Trap, or even the Trapper themselves. You can stop Trick Rooms and mess up your opponent's positioning as well. Another tech option is Perish Song itself. Like Roar, Perish Song cannot miss and forces them to either switch out to reset, or if they're the last two Pokemon, they have no option and just faint in 3 turns, regardless of how many defensive boosts they have. This is a very common scenario, as many gimmick teams tend to sacrifice team members to get their setup. And that is gimmick teams covered. I will say, after hearing everything I've said about gimmick teams, I may have come across as lacking respect towards people that use those teams, and if so, that's great. I'm glad I got my point across. Joking aside, these teams are mainly seen on Best of 1 closed team sheet ladder, which is supposed to be a place one can take advantage of surprise factors to win matches. Many people do this in smaller forms, such as teching unique coverage or items. If you choose to play on closed team sheets, expect to get unexpected. Do you have to actually like them though? I mean, I definitely won't. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe, it really helps the algorithm, and comment what you personally think about gimmick teams. I always love reading others' thoughts here. Thanks again for watching.